So I still look at that guy. And no, the other way. I still look at that guy in that picture, and I'm kind of like, wow, Jake is going to look like that guy in like 20 years. And Seth will never look like that guy.
20 years. That's like 30 years from now for him.
Yeah, but the thing is, he looks relaxed and happy. And you haven't been relaxed and happy since that picture.
My dad's office.
That's right. Well, that was my first year of business, of running the business. I was happy and relaxed.
And
had my wife and kids.
Oh, that's my day every day. Anyway, so here we are.
My J-Day profile.
Yeah, so that's Seth. I'm Sean. Seth and Sean Sports Radio. You can catch us on Twitter. You can catch us here every week. Our Twitter handles are below, so feel free to check.
I guess I should actually make my Twitter.
No. I'm gonna put. I have taken care of it. There it is, right on the bottom. Scroll line. You can find Seth at S Cannons and myself at SU Lawyer 2001. And so before we get on, Jake's like talkative today. This is awesome.
Today. Practice?
Wait. I want you to say, Jake, playoffs?
We're talking about playoffs? Playoffs.
Ladies and gentlemen, the new Jim Mora over there. So anyway, we're going to talk about.
Go with TC. I'll see you in an hour, okay?
We're going to talk about our NBA top 50. But before we do that, I've been on the road for 2.5 weeks, and so somewhere they decided that it would be a good idea to have a super league in EPL. And talk me off the ledge here, because I don't understand, nor do I really care, other than it's
the ruin of soccer. Give me 2 seconds, Jakey.
And nobody can decide whether this is a good or bad thing.
Well, no, it's an awful decision.
Well,
and it's
okay. Then let me phrase it differently. Nobody can decide whether they're in this league or out of this league, because it seems like everybody decided. This very much reminds me of Greg Schiano being hired.
Sorry, my son is losing his mind.
Was it Penn State or Tennessee? This is like Greg Schiano being hired, and then all of a sudden there's all that kickback. Oh, wait, we really didn't mean it. We don't want to belong to this league. This league really isn't that good, and we don't want it. But we're not really sure. So tell me what's going on here.
Okay, so this has been talked about for a couple of years, where you have the haves, quote unquote, of the 5 major leagues: France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and England. We're going to leave their respective get rid of the Champions League, which is kind of the European Club Championship, and have this super division of teams. So that way they have no, this has been talked about for a while, and it never was taken seriously until about 6 months ago, where Man U and people found out that Man U and Liverpool were kind of talking about this. So what happened was last week, supposedly 15 teams, which were going to jump off and kind of create their own league, their own super league, which would mean.
Okay. Hold on, but when you say a super league, are you saying that? So right now there are multi divisions within the EPL. So is this just another division in the EPL, or would this be totally separate from everything else?
This would be separate from everything else, because literally what you would have, that's part of the argument, is you would have, instead of the Champions League, because what happens is, okay, by the way, Derek Chauvin was just convicted of second-degree murder on the George Floyd trial. So for those of you,
breaking news right here.
Here you go. I got my top 50 on one screen, us on one screen, and CNN on the other, which is not normal. No. And third-degree murder. Now they're about to do the final charge. Okay, so What the idea is, when you're in the English league, the whole point is they have relegation and promotion.
Sure.
And you have the bottom 3 go down, the top 3 go up. And the whole goal is to make the top 4 of the Premier League, which allows you automatic entry into the Champions League.
Okay.
And that's where there's an enormous money that goes there. What this was going to do is, and this is around Europe, different promotional standards based on different teams, different leagues. But what it does is it gave everybody the opportunity to go to be in the Super Club League, which in Champions League is the best soccer in the world. It's better than the World Cup. It's better than any of the leagues. It's better than the Olympics. It's what had been decided was you were going to have these 15 teams, 6 from the UK, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, Man U, Man City, Chelsea. 3 from Spain, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Barcelona. 3 from Italy, Juventus, I believe AC Milan and Roma. I may be off on one of them. 2 from Germany, Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich, and from France, PSG. And they were going to have their own Super League, which was going to be underwritten by JP Morgan. And they were going to get about $4 billion. The problem is, once you have that Super League, everything else is irrelevant for all intents and purposes. So Champions League doesn't matter. The Premier League, for all intents and purposes, is moot because you're going to have these teams are going to be splitting $4 billion. They can spend as much money as they want on wages. It's never going to be competitive again. And it's borderline not competitive now.
Can you equate that to basically the Power 5 conferences in college football?
It's the closest we have, but it's the closest we have for all intents and purposes. It's actually a pretty good comparison.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. I'm impressed you brought up college football. It doesn't happen too often.
No.
But even in there, there's always some hope of a Boise State, or it was TCU 10 years ago. There's no hope on any of these. And the problem is, it's not like these are the 15 best teams in Europe either. Arsenal hasn't been a top 5 team in 5 years. Tottenham has never won a title. There's team. Chelsea didn't make this Champions League. May not make the Champions League this year. Liverpool may not make the Champions League this year from just qualifying standpoint, as opposed to being, the whole point is what makes sports great and what makes the tournament great is competitive, like the NCAA tournament great, is competitiveness. And that on any given time, you can have a Villanova, a Butler, in the UK, a Leicester City, in France, 1 year, Monaco. You can have these teams rise and win titles and this would pretty much exclude all that. So what's happened is you have had the player now, and there's the ownership issue, meaning you have UEFA, who runs the Champions League, and there's an argument that they may, if this goes through, players who play on these teams may not be allowed to play on their Olympic team or on their World Cup team. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and because of that, this is probably going to fail.
Well, there was news today that teams are already pulling out.
That's what I'm saying. The 15 teams that they wanted, 3 of them didn't join. 3 of them voted against it. PSG, which was considered, PSG has more money than all of them. That was considered the linchpin of all this, which surprises me because it's the weakest league by far. PSG and the 2 German teams, Dortmund and Munich, both went against it. There were protests all over the UK yesterday, and Chelsea and Man City have dropped out. The chairman of Man U has resigned. It doesn't look like it's going to go through.
So this really is Greg Schiano of soccer. We're going to do it, but wait a second, there's too much backlash, so we're not going to do it, and we're going to try and save face in doing it. Exactly.
That is my hope. I love what UEFA came up with was an expansion of the Champions League, which for more games, which I'm not really sure changes anything one way or the other. Champions League is fine how it is. Similar to how I thought the NCAA tournament was fine at 64. But they want pretty much what they want is the argument for the Super League is in Champions League, you may have Barcelona playing Spartak, Dynamo Moscow, or the team that won the Israeli League, because there's 36 teams that are allowed in it, and they're saying they don't draw any money based off of it.
Who cares?
I'm not arguing that point. What I'm saying is all these teams, you have to understand, Sean, all these teams are pissed broke. These 12 teams that I believe they're more than $1.2 billion in debt right now. They got wiped out by COVID.
Yeah.
So they are trying. This is their way to financial. It's why did Maryland go to the Big Ten when it made absolutely no freaking sense? We were broke. So what's happening is the Real Madrid, the president of Real Madrid, has been the one really pushing this because they have nothing. And the point being is, would you rather see them play Real Madrid play Man City, or would you rather see them play, I don't know, Porto or Sporting Lisbon? And the reality is, I would rather see, if they were playing on a one game, would I rather see them play Man City? Sure. But if they were playing them every year in a league, it loses its panache anyway. I'd rather see them play the upstart teams.
Yeah, this is interleague play at its finest. In the first 3 years, it would be a huge draw. And then after it would be the exact same thing as every other game.
Exactly. You have nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
And the problem, and that's the reality, is it's not, the players don't want it. Understand, the players don't want it. The managers don't want it. The only people who want it are really, it seems like the U.S. owners of these teams, because they're not soccer fans by nature, they're businessmen. John Henry for Liverpool.
Malcolm
Glazer for Man U. Exactly.
Hey, you're surprised I knew that.
No, he owns the Bucks, or he owned the Bucks, so I'm not that surprised. So, but so it's been a really usually Jose Mourinho being fired as a coach would be one of the bigger. Apparently, my wife is calling timeout. What?
Apparently, I don't know who Jose Mourinho is, so that's
that's why you're not a soccer fan. Hold on a
second.
Right.
Agreed. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Remember, next week is our NFL draft preview, and we should probably put that on the scroll here. So next week is our draft preview, and we don't know what time that will be on Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on my flight. I'm going to have to go back out to Arizona. Right now I'm in Dallas on my cross-country trip, but we'll do that. And following this soccer, a little bit more discussion on soccer, we'll get to our NBA top 50. And the replacements, Seth, I'll tell you, the replacements were harder than the ads, trying to find people to drop off. And I will tell you, I spent about a half hour on this. I did not spend a lot of time. But when you're only trying to drop off basically 13 names, but 13 of the top 50 of all time, that's not an easy drop.
I spent a lot more time on it. Between preparing for the show, I was on Gary Aid's show this morning at 10 this morning. I was on a radio show, so I kind of did a little bit of prep for that. And while I was watching TV last night, I kind of put this list together. I had trouble with it.
So did you go 1 through 50, or did you, I don't remember if we decided we were going 1 through 50. Okay.
Oh yeah, I did 1 through 50.
Okay, I did not, but I'm sure I can manage my 1 through 50. That's not hard. So first, who did you drop off the top 50? So who? Give me one name, and I'll say if I agree. Then I'll give you a name. How many did you drop?
I don't know the total number that I dropped. All I did is I put the ESPN list. And for those of you, and I apologize if you brought it up before while Carly came in to talk. So we based this off the 1996 top 50 ESPN's top 50 of all time, which was 25 years ago now. So what I did was I listed the names and I put yes next to them, yes, no, or maybe. And then I kind of put some replacements who I put in next to the no's and maybes, and some of them I kept and some of them I didn't. So my first one was Tiny Archibald. He was replaced.
I have him replaced as well. So I'll check that off. I have look. It pains me that I have two Knicks on this list, but I do. Dave DeBusschere goes off.
Dave DeBusschere actually stayed on mine.
Okay. And let me explain why. I have a hard time, and this permeates throughout the list. Unless you have superhuman qualities or have won 4 or 5 championships, if you are not the best player on your team, it is really hard for me to give you, and you are not one of the best teams of all time. It's hard for you to be a top 50 player in my mind. So Dave DeBusschere was never the best player on his team. He had Willis Reed, he had Walt Frazier, he had Earl Monroe. Not this at one point or another, those 3 guys were all the top player on their teams. But DeBusschere was never the top player on his team, and he wasn't. That's not an all-time.
I used a different thought process with DeBusschere, and he's the only one I used it for on this list.
Okay.
The way that I understand DeBusschere, and look, DeBusschere was in the 60s and early 70s, was before our time from watching.
Sure.
DeBusschere, everyone has said to a man, if they could have one player on a team for one game, number one, not everyone has said, this is what has been said. And I read this. Number 1 was Michael Jordan. Number 2 is Dave DeBusschere.
Okay.
If you are considered that much of a clutch player with the stats that you had and the player that you were, he's not high on the list, but he made the bottom 10.
Okay.
That was enough for me.
All right. So who was your next guy that you took off?
I'm just going in Paul Arizin.
So I had him.
I took him out. He was my last drop, actually.
So I had him as a maybe because I don't know enough about him.
I had him as a maybe as well.
To drop him off. He played way before our time. And I mean, Arizin played in 1950 to 52, or to 62. He won a championship. He had 16,000 points. Just to put that in perspective, Barkley had 23. So he had about the same amount of points, NBA points, as Rick Barry. Now Rick Barry has ABA as well, but he had just about the same amount of points as Rick Barry. So I didn't put him on there because I just don't know enough about him.
Yeah,
so,
that's fair. I had it. He was one of my last 2 or 3 that I kept.
Next one, again, it pains me. I took off Earl Monroe.
I had Earl Monroe number 49.
So we're about there. I mean, and again,
he was the first truly dynamic player. Again, I also kind of input the influence, and he was more influential than a lot of the people who are still on my list.
So I will tell you, it was between him and Frazier, and I kept Frazier and left Monroe.
Frazier's much higher on my list than.
And I could go either way, but
Frazier's the highest Nick I have.
Okay. Yeah.
Significant margin.
Well, I believe you underrate Patrick Ewing, and
he made my list.
I know, but I think you underrate Patrick Ewing, and you yourself believe he's an overrated player.
I do.
So I believe you underrate him. That's fine. That's my own. Okay. Who else you got?
George Gervin.
No, I have Gervin on. I have Gervin on here.
He was my honorable mention.
So I have Gervin on here because much the same way as you said, some of this has to be how they affected the game. Gervin affected the game. Gervin was Julius Erving number 2, right? I mean,
not in a different kind of way. He had the same smoothness that Irving had in the ABA.
Yes.
But Gervin couldn't do anything other than score. And the man could figure roll. But he was a great scorer. I have about 5 to 10 people I had an honorable mention. I had him in that.
Okay. Group. All right. So who else you got out?
Dave Bing.
That was my Syracuse. I was I got him out too. And I was kind of like, what am I doing? I have Pete Maravich out because Maravich was a college dynamo.
Yep.
who just barely. He was a good scorer, but he was just a scorer. That's all. I mean, he made flamboyant passes, but as many turnovers as he did, he's out.
That kind of goes with the point of you. I didn't have him on either.
Okay.
He was an amazing college player, but we're not taking college into account here.
Right.
And he led really bad teams until he played with the Celtics a little bit at the end. I didn't think he wasn't really a consideration for me. As much fun a player to watch as maybe you'll ever find, and maybe the precursor for a guy like a Steve Nash, but not a top 50.
Well, I was thinking a precursor for Jason Williams.
Fair. Okay, next, Dave Cowens.
Yep, he was number 1 on my list out.
Cowens is in my honorable mention out.
I think Cowens was overrated. I think Cowens as a Celtic was an overrated player. I think he gets a lot of credit for that Celtics team. And he
was the best player on those Celtics teams. Or he was the second best player.
Second best. Havolicek was definitely the best.
Yeah. Yep.
And Havolicek was way up on my list. Okay.
Mine too.
How about Kevin McHale? I go back and forth with McHale and Parrish. Both of them.
McHale made mine, Parrish didn't.
Okay. I could go either way. I could go McHale or Parrish.
There's not a consideration. Parrish was nowhere near as good a player as Kevin McHale. Kevin McHale had the best post-up game in the history of the NBA.
That's true.
He was, again, he was a sixth man, a lot of it, but that was more because there's the greatest Celtics teams of all time on some of them. I have him I have him at 39.
Okay.
Parrish didn't even make my honorable mention. Parrish was a very good center who was the beneficiary of having 3 Hall of Famers on the starting lineup with him.
I don't disagree with you with that at all. Okay.
Next for me, Billy Cunningham. He was out.
Yep. I have him out as well.
Very nice player, very good coach. He's just not a top 50 player 25 years later.
How about Nate Thurmond?
Honorable mention, didn't make it. It was between him and Dwight Howard as my last center, and I went with Dwight Howard.
You see, I don't have Howard in here at all. Okay.
Howard is my 10th center. Hal Greer. I took out Hal Greer. I think there have just been better guards that have come along. He was a very good scorer. He was a good defender. He was kind of the Mitch Richmond-esque of his era. Like would score the 20 to 23 points a game, but there was nothing. Never did it. Was a top 50 player at a certain point, but was not someone who I would have considered 25 years later.
Okay, that's fair. All right. I have Sam Jones.
Yeah, Sam Jones. I have Sam Jones out as well.
Okay.
Very good player, but you can only have so many Celtics, and he was never the first or second best player on his team. Yep. I actually had Alvin Hayes out. Alvin Hayes to me, great scorer, never played on any good teams, never led any teams anywhere. His peak from a impact standpoint was at the University of Houston when they beat UCLA in '68. Again, part of it his fault, part of it bad teams, but so be it.
Okay. Bill Sharman.
Bill Sharman was a very good player and a good coach with a very good player. He was Bob Cousy's backcourt mate, but didn't make it for me. I took out Willis Reed.
Yeah, I couldn't take Willis out. I couldn't.
So you have four Knicks in in your final 50.
I have Ewing. Hold on.
Ewing, Frazier. Oh, you don't have Monroe.
Ewing, Frazier. Yeah, I don't have Monroe or DeBusschere. Yep, okay. 3. So nice. So I was going back and forth on a couple of these guys. Jerry Lucas, I went back and forth on.
I took him out.
I don't know enough about him, but I have him on my out list.
DeBusschere was a better player. I took him out. I I took out Wes Unseld. And then my hardest decision to make.
Oh, I had him. I had Unseld in. I had Drexler out. I know.
I'm not even dignifying that with a response.
I did that just for you, my friend.
I know you did. For those of you who don't know, Drexler is one of my 3 favorite players of all time. And I am very against people. Nobody played better with dribbling with his head down than Clyde Drexler.
Except me.
No, you didn't. You were shot.
By the way, I got one more guy, and I'm not sure how you feel. Bill Walton's out.
Bill Walton was what I was going to say. Bill Walton was my number 51. The problem with Walton in his prime is a top 15 player of all time. His problem is his prime was 2.5 years. And, it's the Terrell Davis argument. You can argue that he's a Hall of Famer, which he is. You can't argue he's an all-time great when you play 5 years. And he really was only in his prime for 3 or 4. Now, there were a couple more that I dropped, or that I dropped Lenny Wilkins.
Okay.
I dropped James Worthy. And I dropped one more. Oh, no, I actually kept in Dolph Shays. So that was about 12. It was about 12 or 13 people I dropped.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people I dropped.
Okay.
So who'd you add? And we probably added the same guys, right?
Except for Dwight Howard. We added the same people.
So I got Iverson.
Yep.
Steve Nash.
Yep.
Jason Kidd.
Yep.
Kevin Durant.
Yep.
LeBron.
Yep.
Kobe.
Yep.
Duncan.
Yep.
Garnett.
Yep.
Dirk.
Yep.
Curry.
Yep.
Gary Payton.
Yep.
Chris Paul.
Yep.
Dwayne Wade.
Yep.
Alex English.
No.
Yes.
No. Not even a consideration.
Oh, and I have one more, and I have Kawhi. Sorry.
Yeah, I have Kawhi. I actually have 2 more, but when I'll do my list of 50. I'll put them there.
Okay.
So, yeah, Alex English was not even a consideration.
Oh, you see, I have mad props for Alex English.
Why? He was a great scorer. He did. What else did he do? And he's a crossing guard.
22, 6, and 3.5. All NBA. Yeah. 5.5 rebounds, 3.6 assists. 3-time All NBA. Yeah.
No.
You realize, except for the assists, he's got just the same numbers as your boy Clyde, right? He's got 1.5 more points. He's got better field goal percentage. He's got a little bit less on the 3-pointers.
When was Alex English? We're talking late 70s. I guess he made the All-NBA team in the late 70s would be my guess, right?
Yeah, he's 13th all-time and 18th all-time in points. I'm not saying he's a top.
Wait a minute, Alex English didn't make the top 50 for the first time.
He doesn't need to.
No, what I'm saying is we're adding 25 more years worth of players. Alex English was a very nice player. Those Denver teams were a lot of fun with him and Issel. But if he wasn't good enough to make the first 50, why would he be good enough to make it?
Wait. So you're telling me that sometimes people don't make mistakes?
I don't think that was a mistake. I think you have 50 people, whatever it is, whatever number of ESPN people, put a list together and these are the NBA, quote unquote, these are the NBA experts, the all-time greats that know the sport cold. They didn't include him on the list 25 years from now. And you're saying with 15 more additions, you're adding him in?
Yep.
Oh, I think you're batshit.
No, that's true. You think that all?
I think this is an anti-Drexler move. I think that's the point.
It might be. It might be.
Here's my. I'll do this in stages of 10.
Okay.
So here's my first 10.
Okay.
Michael, LeBron, Bill Russell, 3, Kareem, 4, Magic, 5, Bird, 6, Wilt, 7, Duncan, 8, West, 9, Kobe, 10.
Okay.
Any comments, thoughts?
West 9. That's an interesting where he is.
Because I have him above Kobe?
No, you have him above Elgin.
I do.
Well, and that's why I said it's an interesting place where he is. Because, yes, West was a great player, no doubt. West was probably, top 3 shooting guards of all time? Him, Kobe, and Michael?
I have him as number 2, but yes.
Okay. Well, okay. Him, Kobe, and Michael would be the top 3 if you're going to name them, right?
Yeah.
Elgin, and granted, we're learning a lot. We remember a lot more about Elgin as he's fresh in our minds based on his passing.
Yeah.
But Elgin was the best player in the league when he was playing.
Elgin was great. I don't have him very far behind.
Well, and that's why I said, you asked me, is that the reason? Because he's in front of somebody else. I said, no, he's in front of Elgin. Like, I put the two of them together just in history, and I would put Elgin over West. That's not the look. You could have it number 11.
It's arbitrary. No, I get it.
We're talking
two. Is there anything earth-shattering that surprise? That's not a shot.
No. The earth-shattering thing is if we don't get to Elgin until 35, and then we start talking about this.
No, Elgin's in my next 10.
Yeah. So, well, that's what I said. So nothing earth-shattering there. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So 11, Durant. 12.
I'm surprised Durant's not higher.
Durant and Kobe. The only Durant and Kobe was kind of a flip. The only reason I don't have Durant over Kobe is I think Durant was a better player, but Kobe did lead them to titles. Durant has never really led his team to a title.
Where is Bird? I'm sorry. Where did you have Bird?
6.
Does Durant have the ability to get to Bird?
I don't know. I don't know. They're the two best threes. Again, depending where you put LeBron, how you're.
Well, I told you. I think the closest thing to Larry Bird in today's NBA is Durant, and he doesn't need to be the focus, but he can be the focus, and he is definitely the best player on his team. I don't care if you want to say.
Oh no, I understand that.
He is the best player.
That. But Bird and Magic ushered in an era that revolutionized basketball. Durant and Bird now there are different things. They were both great shooters. It doesn't matter who's better. It's a different era. Right. Bird was the best shooter of his era. Durant's one of the best shooters of his era. Mm-hmm. They're both great rebounders. Durant's a better defensive player. Bird's a better passer. It's not like there's an earth. You're talking again, top 3 of their position of all time.
No, and I get that, and that's why I asked. Do you think there's a possibility he could get to?
I think he'd have to win. I think he would have to win 2 titles with Brooklyn. Would be my guess.
Which is certainly possible, and certainly within your I don't know, heaven. I mean,
we bought a title. I mean, like I'll root for it, but
we bought a title. Your Yankees have been buying titles for decades.
No, they haven't bought one. In 9 years now.
No, I said 4 decades. I didn't say within a decade.
So, all right. So I got Durant at 11.
Okay.
I have Oscar at 12. Mm-hmm. I have Olajuwon at 13. I have Elgin at 14. I have Curry at 15. I have Nowitzki at 16. Irving at 17. Moses and Malone at 18. And Shaquille at 19.
Okay, so I know you love Moses. I know you love what he does.
No.
I am actually surprised Curry is that high. I wouldn't put him that high. If you want to say his impact on basketball, certainly he's in the top 20 of all time because nobody shoots a 20-footer because of Stephen Curry. Like,
what his impact over the last 20 years is absurd. I went to a high school game 2 years ago. It was the first time I've been to a high school game in God knows when. Nobody shot a mid-range jumper.
right.
It was all threes or layups. That was it. And whatever we say, that was the impact of Curry. Curry
Agreed.
led the best team of the last 25 years to 3 out of 4 titles. He is playing out of his mind this year in a year where his team is irrelevant. He's the best leader, probably. He's, if not the best leader in basketball at this point, he's right there. He's a great scorer. He's somewhere to me. I was surprised I had him that high, but that was just kind of where I played out.
Okay. Well, you had said what surprises you? You're surprised. I am surprised he's that high. I'm surprised he's actually below Moses for you. And in general.
Well, Moses is also I have Moses as the number 5 center of all time. I have Curry as kind of the number 3 or number 4 or whatever you want to put as a combo guard. You know, it's not that we ranked it by positions per se.
Right. That's what I was saying.
But all right, so that's my 20.
Okay.
My 19. Yeah, I'm not a Shaq guy, as you know. So
no.
20 is Garnett.
Which I'm surprised you have O'Neal over Garnett. Is it just because of championships?
It has to be. He won 6 titles. 6 titles. I have to.
Okay.
Would I rather have Shaquille or Garnett on my team? I'd rather have Garnett. But
well, you know, Garnett's my Clyde Drexler. So I'm
giving yours respect. You give mine crap.
I gave yours 51st overall, my friend.
All right. I got Havlicek at 21, Pettit at 22. So Pettit is the highest. Pettit, Baylor, and West are the 3 highest, kind of the non-centers are my 3 highest players of the pre-era. Pippen, which hurts me, at 23, which actually shocks me. I put him there. Isaiah at 24, Wade at 25, Barkley at 26, Nash at 27, Robinson at 28, and Kawhi at 29.
Okay, so this is where you're going to get some questions. Not even questions, just I'm not an Isaiah guy and never has been. That's not where. And who would you had Isaiah over Wade, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that was one question. Why Isaiah over Wade? And then, is John Havlicek the most underrated player in basketball history? Because I think he might very well be.
Yeah, we've been saying that for years. I mean, the guy played from 60, was the second best player on probably 5 title teams, the best player on 2 or 3 others. He could run forever. He was an Iron Man. He was phenomenal.
I think what I'm saying is he, by underrated, when you talk about the top, if you ask somebody, please name the top 20 to 25 players in basketball.
He's never there.
He is the one that will be most frequently missed in that top 25 category.
He's never brought up because there have been so many people in Boston that he's never even discussed anymore.
You'll even hear Cowens before you'll hear Havlicek, just because people remember Cowens, and Havlicek was so quiet and did a little bit of everything. Havlicek was if your statement is correct based on what we talked about, Havlicek is a better Dave DeBusschere.
He's a better all-around player. He wasn't the rebounder that DeBusschere was.
No, but I'm saying he's the glue guy. He's the guy that everybody wanted on their team.
Okay, so
why Dwayne Wade why Isaiah over Dwayne Wade?
Oh, I just think he was a better player. I think Isaiah led. Give me 1 second. I think Isaiah was one of the toughest players. I think Isaiah is one of the toughest players of all time. I think he got crapped on a lot because his team was hated. He was not liked by Jordan, obviously leading to the Olympic snub of '92. And remember, he only played 10 years, and then he tore his ACL, and he was done.
Right, but that's all part of this, right? I mean, he
did not slow down at any point. He had no slowdown at any point. So I think Isaiah, between leadership, his game, and I guess it was 87 or 88, game 6 against the Lakers, were on a pretty much busted ankle. He scores 25 in the fourth. I mean, he was incredible. And people forgot him because he's a very similar player now in Chris Paul, except without the championship accolades. Tough leader, great scorer, great player, top 5, bottom of the top 5 point guards to me of all time, which is really not exactly bottom of anything. Wade is a top 5 shooting guard of all time. But Wade was other than the team in 05, Wade was not the best player on any team that went to a title game, that went anywhere. Or 06, I think they won it. Wade became a supporting player for LeBron. Now, I mean, when you go, and it's not like his stats never, we talk about the Jeter A-Rod, where Jeter took a step back to have A-Rod come in. Jeter still ended up with 3,600 hits.
Yeah,
Wade was very, very good. Wade was not at that level. So, I found myself confused by my Kawhi pick at 29, to be honest. I don't know if that's the right place. I have no idea where to put Kawhi in this list.
Well, here's the thing about Kawhi. And look, we know what Kawhi has done. He's an all-NBA player 3 times. He's won 2 NBA championships.
He's only won 2 NBA. He's only won 2?
Yeah.
Wow. It feels like so much more.
Right. So he's won 2, and that may be why, right? He won 1 with San Antonio. And I debate, I mean, to me, I think you have Kawhi actually too high.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. I think at this point here.
I mean, Kawhi, let me just run down some stats because I remember I was looking this up as we were going through it. Kawhi has averaged 17.7 points a game. That's it.
That does.
I know that doesn't do everything for Kawhi. I get it.
Right, I get it.
6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.8 steals. He's only been an all-star 3 times. He's been an all-NBA player 3 times too.
He's only been an all-star 3 times? No, again, I didn't look through all the stats on this. As I said, this is the problem with doing this list and trying to go back and forth. I do think I'd probably put him a little bit high. I believe he's on a list because he's also been one of the 5 best players in basketball in the last 5 years.
So in 2018, 2019, he did 27, 6, and 3. Like that's a line, right? I mean, that's a ridiculous line. And then he averaged his last 2 years in San Antonio 21 and 25.
He was also the defense. How many times did he win the Defensive Player of the Year? He was just all defense. God knows.
I think it was just all defense. I don't think he won Defensive Player of the Year. He is 2 times Finals MVP. So I mean, there's that. So I agree. I think Kawhi's legend is better than Kawhi.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm kind of listening to that and saying, yeah, this is probably someone who does belong on the list but he's not someone who belongs at that point. So I will happily I'll take the hit on that.
Sure. Happy to go.
Right. 30 through 40. Karl Malone.
Who you think is an overrated player to begin with? Wait,
Jason
Stockton before or after Malone?
After. I haven't said Stockton yet.
No, okay.
Jason Kidd, Rick Barry, George Mikan, John Stockton, Allen Iverson, Walt Frazier, James Harden.
Oh, I don't have one on my list.
Gary Payton, Kevin McHale.
Okay, so Mikan, as low as Mikan is because of the competition?
Yes.
Okay. Is that why Elgin's lower?
Again, I have Elgin at 14. I don't think I have Elgin particularly low.
I get it. Okay. Stockton, because he hasn't won a championship?
There's this huge grouping of point guards where it is so difficult to make the right determination between Stockton, Kidd, Payton. They're all in this kind of.
But the difference is, but they're all and here's why I ask you that. So you have Isaiah Thomas well above any of those other point guards.
No, I have Isaiah. I have Isaiah 24. I have the next one.
You definitely have a delineation between Isaiah and this clump of three, right?
I do.
So Peyton was amazing. I loved Gary Payton's game.
Yeah.
I think Gary Payton was the best defensive guard I've ever seen.
Okay.
Bar none.
Isaiah led 2 teams to a title.
Well, that's what my question is. Is it just about the championships?
No, it's not just about championships, but it certainly plays a part. Kid was on one title team. He was certainly not the best player. He was well past his time at that point. Stockton went to 2 championships, honestly past his prime at that point when they went and they didn't win. Peyton went to 1 title. Peyton did win a title with Miami 11 years later, but that was way past his prime.
Yep.
Now, where I have the issue is Peyton was a better player than John Stockton in my mind. But Stockton's statistics are so much better. It's hard. It's a hard thing. And I mean, I have him 34 versus 38. Not exactly a huge list. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to make. Look, in a one-on-one, from a defensive standpoint, of course you take Peyton. From a passing standpoint, obviously you take Stockton. What do you call it? Was a better? What's his name? Was a better? Peyton was a better scorer. Stockton did the same thing every single freaking time for 20 years, and nobody could stop him. But
so believe it or not, Gary Payton was 9 times All NBA.
First team?
Nah, I don't know. I don't think so. Probably not.
No, probably first or second. First team, maybe 2, maybe twice. Stockton may never have hit it.
Stockton was 11 times All NBA. Again, probably not first team. You're probably right. Isaiah was 5 times.
Isaiah played shorter period of time. I'm not. That doesn't faze me. He played 10 years. It wasn't like he played 6. He didn't play Terrell Davis years. He played 10 years, and then he tore his ACL and he was done. I'm good with it.
Okay. Actually, it was his Achilles, not his ACL.
I apologize. He tore his Achilles. Okay. 40 to 50.
Yep.
Kuzi.
Yep.
Chris Paul. Dave
probably the equivalent of Kuzi, by the way. You put Paul and Kuzi back to back.
Yeah, I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
Dave DeBusschere. Dolph Schayes. Anthony Davis.
That's early. That's really early for him.
Well, he's been in the league 8 years. Clyde Drexler. See, I didn't give Drexler. I was very fair with Drexler.
Hold on. What? Okay, finish your 50, and then I got questions.
Giannis at 46. Ewing, Dwight Howard, Earl the Pearl, Ray Allen.
Okay. Now, I am picking from an argument on 40 to 50 and understanding that probably 30 guys could go in this 40
Very
to 50.
well could have done it.
Right? Okay. How I get you dealt with Isaiah in that he had an injury, so he was limited to 12 years. I get that. So he doesn't have the counting stats, right? I get that some of these older players, like let's call Bob Cousy, probably did not play more than 12 years, if I had to guess. How do you get around Anthony Davis only playing 8? And if you're dealing with an Anthony Davis only playing 8, there may be better players that only played 8. And by the way, I didn't think I heard I didn't hear Dr. J on there at all.
Yes, you did. He was number 17.
Oh, okay. I just missed him. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I was like, wait a second, we're missing Dr. J here. Okay. So how do you get around Anthony Davis playing 8 years?
It's not the easiest thing in the world. But every time he has played, has he ever had a year under 20, under 23 and 8?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I'm saying since he came into the league, has there been now again, last year probably did a lot for me with him. And again, maybe because I could have brought in a Walton or a Reggie Miller, or Reggie Miller I wouldn't have had. Or one of the or Gervin or Russell Westbrook even from a career standpoint. And maybe I kind of just because what's his name? Davis is going to be a top 50, most likely if it's all said and done. I just kind of jumped the curve a little bit on it.
Okay.
But that's really the reason. Him and Giannis. I mean, Giannis is a 2-time MVP at age 25. I think I realize it's very early on, but you don't have too many 2-time MVPs who are not going to make a top 50 list.
No, and that's fair, and that's completely fair. And if you want to jump, that makes perfect sense. And if we were talking 2005, you'd probably have Derrick Rose on this list, or 2008, right?
2012 or 13. There's a potential that he would.
Sorry, when he won the MVP.
No, but Rose was only playing for the league for 4 years when he won the MVP, and then 2 years later he was broken. So he's been broken for almost a decade. As amazing as that sounds, look, it's to a degree it's arbitrary. I think I may have put my boy too low, to be honest. But I know you think Ewing should have been higher, which is fine. But I see him as somewhere between 8 and 10 from the centers of all time. I don't know how much higher he really should go. It's hard. Like, it's not an easy list.
No. Like I said, the hardest part, quite frankly, the hardest part is picking enough people off to add
anyone significant that you think I missed?
Besides Alex English? No.
Alex English is not significant.
I have it's funny. I Dwight Howard I know what he's done. He's played 16 years, right? And if you want to say, let's say when he finished with the Lakers, I'm looking up his stats right now. So when he finished with the Lakers, he played one more year. With Houston, he averaged 18 and 12, which is pretty damn good. Yeah. So for those years, he averaged 18, 12. So that's from years 20 to 28. 18, 12 with a field goal percentage of 57%. And the reason why I bring that up is because I was comparing him to Willis Reed, and who you don't have on your list.
I don't.
Right. And Willis Reed, so just remember that, 18 and 12, right?
Willis Reed's probably right there.
Willis Reed he's definitely right there. I believe Willis Reed is 19 and 13.
Same.
So who has won 2 championships, right? So you're
Look, I get it. As I said, there are arguments you can make on all directions.
Sure.
Howard was also the best center in basketball for about 7 years. Think about it. Now, again, that may be an antiquated position,
right?
But
no, I get you, and that makes all sense.
Reed, for better or for worse, at absolute best. Now that may be a completely unfair argument because Reed was going against 2 top 10 guys with Russell and Chamberlain. He had the end of Alcindor, at the beginning of Alcindor. He had guys like Nate Thurman, who is a Hall of Famer, and someone who was on the list, who was right off, who probably would have, I'm surprised actually didn't make the top 50 list, then.
No, Thurman made the list.
Did he? Oh, for some reason I don't. Oh, yes, he did. I'm sorry. But, I mean, again, it's a Hall of Famer. Walt Bellamy was a very good center. It was more of a center league back then. And despite the goofy look, would I rather have Willis Reed? Again, the arguments become arbitrary in certain regards.
Right, and I said you could probably fit 30 people on your 40 to 50 list, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
look, you could have done a top 100, and number 90 through 100, you would have come up with 20 arguments against.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right.
But I really didn't go hardcore through stats because, well, I have a career and a family, and I can't put 3 hours into this. But I was just kind of thinking, like, what I was trying to think of is, who would I rather have? Now, again, would I rather have Reed than Howard? Probably. But again, he was the best. You kind of compare a couple of things. Howard was the best of his era. Reed was not. Whatever you want to call it. There's the dog. So I mean, it is arbitrary up to it's a science up to a certain point, and then it's an art, and then it becomes arbitrary.
Absolutely.
If you wanted to tell me that you thought Alex English was better than Clyde Drexler, okay, but you're doing it despite me, and I get it and respect it. Is that
look? We can all poke the bear so many times.
Yeah.
So
hate the player, love the game. I got you.
So next week we have our NFL preview, NFL draft preview. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's two very different things. Hopefully that time you'll actually do a list in order.
Yeah, yeah, and we're not exactly sure on the time, but we'll get that to Facebook as soon as we can. But we're not exactly sure on the time. But we'll definitely have all of our. I guarantee you, we will get 1 and 2 right. That and maybe 3. But other than that,
the radio show I was on, you'll appreciate this. The radio show I was on this morning. So I was on Gary Hart's show from 10:20 to 10:40, and his first comment is, "I think all these quarterbacks are overrated." And he started with that. It was an interesting discussion. You should check it out. And he goes, "Look, they have to take." I go, "Look, you traded Darnold. You have no choice." But the guy Sean, who I host my show with, and we were. I don't know if I would have traded him for a 2 and a 4. I would have rather kept. But the problem is, what do you need? Like what you need, just need a little bit of everything. But you're not going to take an offensive tackle because you took Beckman. You're not going to take. I mean, you're going to take a tight end number 2.
Well, you'll find out what I think next week.
No, I know what you. I know what you think. I think you're taking Zach Wilson.
Yeah, so be better. Okay, we'll get you more next week. That's Seth Kamens. I'm Sean Palmer.
Yeah, I got it right.
Yeah, there you go. And we'll check you guys next week with our NFL draft preview. Stay tuned to Facebook and Twitter. See ya.
Good one, everybody.